So it's 6 o'clock, and this is Mark Tucker, Superintendent. Once a year I get to do this. I'm calling to order the meeting of the Danville School Board. It's a special meeting following town meeting yesterday with the intention of reorganizing the board and some other things. So technically right now you don't have a board chair. So I'm calling the meeting to order. Present in the meeting is Clayton
Cargill.
Melissa Conley, Molly Gleason.
Tim Sanborn.
I've got Dave Toll in as an attendee, so he's probably sitting in his car. You might want to pop in. You can promote him with panels.
Dave, if you can hear us, I'm trying to promote you to panelist, but if you're on a phone, I'm not sure.
I don't think you can be a panelist on a phone.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, Dave, I'm just going to
You decline, so, yeah.
I'm gonna, oh, he just came in. Oh, because I allowed him. So Dave, I just allowed you to talk so you can participate in the meeting. So Dave, could you just respond to us and let us know that you're hearing us okay? You're muted right now.
Well, you may not be hearing us.
Well, somebody's here.
So Dave Toll may be joining us.
Okay. All right, so first order of business is to elect a chair for the school board for the upcoming year. So I'll open the floor to nominations. Do you have any nominations to be board chair of the Danville School Board?
I nominate Clayton Cargill.
Okay, Tim Sanborn nominates Clayton Cargill. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Melissa seconds that. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, is Clayton Cargill willing to stand for this position?
Yes.
Okay, all right, then no other nominations, so I'll call the question. All board members in favor of Clayton Cargill serving as board chair of the Danville School Board, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Oh, there you are, Dave. Hi.
Dave.
Okay, so I have 4 votes, and Clayton's not voting.
I'm not gonna vote.
Clayton's not voting, but we have 4 board members, so you are the board chair. Congratulations, and I will now turn control of the meeting over
All
to
right,
you.
great. I'll welcome Dave Toll in. Hey, Dave, just say your name for the record. So he voted. Dave Toll's here.
Dave Toll,
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Dave.
can you hear me?
Yes.
After he called the meeting to order and before he elected the vice chair, Mark was going to ask for additions to the agenda.
Oh.
He did not. I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. I got one thing to
Sorry.
add. I'm going to go ahead and just break a little rule here. I'd like to add, if I can get a motion to add the approving the minutes from the 3/8 informational meeting for approval. And those went around today. So I'll look for a motion there.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Enough. Okay, so we're gonna add that in under the February 21st minutes. We'll get to that. My first order of business here would be to elect a vice chair. I'd be looking for nomination for a vice chair for the school board.
I'll make a motion to nominate Dave Toll.
Motion to nominate Dave Toll.
I will second that motion.
10 seconds. Are there any other nominees? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of Dave Toll as the vice chair of the Danville School Board?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next thing up.
Did
to
we
elect-
ask him if he wanted to do it?
He doesn't have a choice.
Okay, great.
He does not have a choice.
He didn't show up, so
He's
he's
been sitting there, he's been sitting there plenty long. If I die, you got to run the meetings, Dave. We're now going to elect a clerk. I'm looking for nominations for a clerk. I got somebody currently clerking. That indicates willingness.
Right, who should be doing this job?
I nominate Molly Gleason.
Jump right into it. I'll second that.
So I will tell you, at the CCSU meeting last year, I was sitting there prepared to be the clerk, and then they made me the chair. And then for 11 minutes, there was no clerk and no recording. And so it was very awkward the next day because there was no clerk and there was no recording. Some of the recordings didn't work either, and nobody knew what happened. Nobody knew who nominated me as the chair. Anyway, so I have a motion and a second for a clerk. Did you get those?
Who moved?
Melissa moved, Tim seconded, or
Or vice versa.
Vice
but
versa.
it's the
Versa.
same.
Okay.
One or the other.
All in favor of Molly Gleason as the clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Strong.
Take it. Now, the next order of business is to elect 2 CCSU board representatives and 1 alternate. Currently, the CCSU board sits Clayton, Melissa, with the alternate of Molly. I think that we can agree that that's probably who's available the most often on that. Because Tim's not available Mondays and Dave's done it for years and came off. So I would look for a motion from probably Tim or Dave to nominate Clayton, Melissa, and alternate Molly to the CCSU board all at once.
I so moved.
There we go. Dave Toll, can you second that one for me? It's not still there. All right, I'll take a second for one of you guys.
1 second.
Melissa seconds her own nomination. All
So
right.
tacky.
All in favor? All in favor of that, of
Be hearing from the Secretary of State.
Yes.
all in favor of those 3 nominations to the CCSU board, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is committee assignments for the negotiations council. Negotiations are currently over. However, we may convene as a negotiations council at some point, and it's better to be prepared for that.
We'll actually need to do that this fall because the sports staff contract is up at the end of this.
Of the subsequent school year, right? So we're going to want to be on, and so our contracts are settled, but we're going to have to get back on it. And I've for I guess 4 years been on the negotiation council. I'm willing to serve again. If you guys want to nominate me for the negotiation council, I will go sit on the negotiation council.
I'm gonna nominate you for the negotiations council.
There may be a point at which it's necessary for somebody else to come on the negotiations council, and if there is, I'll let you know. Right? Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
That's
There's
cool.
a message in the chat. Is that Dave sending it something?
What?
It's gonna be on this, right? Is it this?
No, because
I send a message to him.
Oh,
that says
okay.
I'm muted.
Okay. Just checking. Great.
So it's possible he goes in. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to set the regular board meeting schedule. We traditionally meet Tuesdays, the first Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. Is that agreeable to everybody? Can we all just agree by consensus? That's our meeting schedule.
Yeah, great.
We meet Tuesdays at 6 regular meetings. We schedule additional meetings as special meetings as necessary.
don't we?
Yeah, plenty. This one came up last year. This one came up 2 years ago. Schedule an annual board retreat. Is there any interest? And if there was a month that we didn't have anything to do, would you want to have another meeting, given how many meetings we're going to have with the committee
Jeepers,
council?
I really feel like I don't see you guys enough.
So I'm going to go ahead and table that one, if that's okay with everybody.
If something comes up, we can schedule that on the fly.
Sure. That's one of those things. If we can figure out something that's worthwhile for all of us.
Will we talk about goals and that kind of thing there?
Well, yeah, I mean, right, goal setting and anything that came up, if we could have a list of things,
Maybe
we
if there's a slow month, we could.
yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that a lot of traditionally that happens in the summer for a lot of districts when there's not much to do.
Yeah.
July, you don't meet. August, you still are, you maybe are available and you say
Yeah.
everybody comes together. And then if you have a meeting scheduled for August that is a retreat, then it's easy to throw some business in. If you have it sitting on the schedule, if you don't have one scheduled, it's hard to schedule. So if you wanted to set up to the past 2 years, probably the past 3 years, if we tried to set up a meeting in August as a retreat, it would interfere with the principal stuff. That's what keeps happening.
Yeah.
Because that first week of August, the principals and the superintendent are all occupied elsewhere. And that's why we tend not to schedule it.
If I could, I would suggest that we think about doing it later in July. Before the end of the month.
Okay, so
And just because I'm going to be gone.
so yeah, that's the summer month, last year, the year prior, we merged the 2 meetings and then we met somewhere around the 27th of July, something like that. So that we have a meeting on the schedule, but there was business to attend to both times we did it. So we could schedule the retreat for that day and then determine what goes in the retreat if we wanted to. It's, but there'd be nothing to do. It seems optimistic for July, but we could put that in our plans, something to consider in the future. And that meeting can't be scheduled yet because we don't know what day it is.
Yeah, let's put that under
Tentatively July.
future agenda items.
Future agenda items.
That's where I'm putting that.
Future agenda item. Tables for
Because
name.
Dave's not here. Come on. Also, I'm.
Next on the agenda is designating official newspapers and posting locations. Our posting locations are Marty's, the post office, the front of the school, Hastings store. Everybody okay with those?
Mhm.
Our official newspaper is the Caledonian Record.
That seems right.
Seems right. Is everybody okay with that?
Great.
So with, by consensus, we're gonna move on for that one. Next on the agenda is discuss and adopt the code of ethics. This went out to the
Marty's post office, Hastings Star, what was the other one?
the front of the school,
What
All
a
right.
town hall, we do town hall or no?
probably.
Okay. We do town hall?
I mean, there's
Love
a,
it.
there's a poster board in front of town hall, but I don't think we put.
I don't think we post there.
Okay.
And then it always goes on the website. We don't,
On the school website as
Yeah.
well.
okay. And that's actually Katie's job.
Katie walks those around. I don't know who goes to the Hastings store. Somebody though.
She probably does. She,
I hope I didn't just-
I keep trying-
I hope I
all
didn't
the-
just force her to go to the Hastings store.
all the things that she does, I can't, I couldn't give you a list if you could stuck nails under my fingers.
So, and then the official newspaper is the Caledonian Record.
Yep.
And like you say, online, we also post it with ourselves. Now, we're moving on, to discussing and adopting the code of ethics. The code of ethics went around for an auto signature this afternoon. Katie sent it to everybody. Did you get that? I'm supposed to ask if you got that.
I did.
All right, it's not DocuSign, this
I
one,
got it.
this is Google signature or something else. I have DocuSign and it wasn't that
Adobe.
Adobe signature, so I
Yeah,
got,
it was easy.
you get, it's easy enough, you get to scribble something. So I'll check with Dave in the morning if you got it. Dave, if you're still there, you're not still there, right?
Nope.
Yeah, he's gone. Okay, so we'll just make sure he got it. She wanted to make sure everybody got it, send it back. So we're gonna move on from that one. Oh, does anybody have any questions about the code of ethics before we move on from that? Did you read through and sign it? Anything to say about it? Highest
No.
ethical standards?
No, I
All right.
never had any concerns about anyone on this board.
It's good.
Can't say that for all
All
of
the
them.
time.
Well, not that I've heard of, Tim, but
What does that mean, Tim?
The jet light's really kicking in.
All right, next on the agenda is communication practices and handling complaints. I'm gonna turn this over to Mark for a second to just give an idea of what the expectations are here.
Yeah, it's basically, you will hear from parents from time to time. Clayton's been on the receiving end of this, like, certain parent. And we ask board members to respect the chain of command and allow the administration to deal with problems before getting involved. And there are technical reasons why board members should not get too involved in discipline processes and things like that, because there are some potential circumstances where an appeal of a decision could come to the board, and then you are put in the role of a quasi-judicial body hearing an appeal, and you should not have a lot of prior knowledge of situations. So certainly you have constituents who may reach out to you from time to time, and the only thing that we ask is that, you know, it kind of, if it involves a complaint in the classroom, that you talk with the teacher, and then if you talk with the principal, you know, the responsible principal, and then if push comes to shove, you can ask them to talk. If something comes to me and I find out that it hasn't gone through a teacher or principal, I push it back down the same way. Because the problem's better solved at the source, so to speak, than it is for me to run around trying to figure out what's going on. Except for the recent situation, it hasn't come up a lot here.
But often it's just the simplest question. Like, how come the bus doesn't go down X road? That's not us, right? We don't set the bus routes. I got that one a couple times a couple years ago. Why doesn't the bus go down my road? That's a Denise question. There's a clear delineation between the operations of all the school and so they can just send it back in. So teacher, principal, superintendent, that's the order of operations. But in some cases, you may have to send them elsewhere. In that case, to Denise, and her number's on there, and you know who she is. If you have a question about who is what, you can call Mark, you can call the principal and say, who do I send this person to?
Yeah.
And you can generally answer questions, but don't intervene as best you can. And just the line of delineation is clear because we are largely untrained people. We're just community volunteers. We don't know. So we just keep the line clear. That's it for that one, I think. Everybody agree that's enough?
Mhm.
All right. Appointment of the voting delegate for statewide healthcare. Now, last year, we didn't do this because we didn't need one. This year, we're probably gonna need one.
I don't think it's up for discussion.
Really?
No. I think there's at least another year on it.
All right, good.
Yep.
So you want to move on with that one? We'll move on with that one. They didn't say anything about, they didn't tell me that last week at the webinar that I went to about onboarding the members. They didn't expressly say like they did the year before that there's no need for this one to go, but the conversation veered very well.
Let's table it and I can
Table.
find out.
You can- Or you just name me and then it'll be over.
I nominate.
Okay, let's-
Like we can just close this off, but whatever it is, this is
Okay,
just some nosy, you need some nosy somebody who wants to sit in another meeting. And I believe I hold the title.
Need a second to move.
Tim moved,
I'll second.
Melissa seconds. So you're voting for Clayton to be appointed as the voting delegate for statewide health insurance if the position is needed.
And that's different than the sick bank.
Oh, yeah.
Sick bank, we're not to the sick bank because of the CCSU level, that is not local level.
Gotcha.
Well,
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Okay, next we need signers of warrants, plural. Signer of warrants currently me. Signer of warrants goes over and signs papers, looks at the expenditures. Molly is the backup signer of warrants. So if you want to run it back, you can run it back. Clayton for the signer of warrants, Molly for the backup signer of warrants. Can I get a motion?
so moved.
There we go. And a second. Run it back. All in favor?
They make it
Aye.
games.
Aye. That's right.
Gonna get close.
You still can make it. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, and that is all that we have for reorganizing, and we stayed roughly the same.
We're so organized.
We'll reorganize this time.
Feel it.
Everybody shift one to the left. All right. Next, I've got several sets of minutes that we can go through one at a time if you'd like. A chance to go through all these sets of minutes.
Mhm.
The February 21st minutes and the March 8th minutes are informational meetings only. There's no need to have them, except that Katie wanted to have them and she wasn't gonna take no for an answer. So those minutes were made up and they're gonna get moved, see what she needed, some minor
wait
improvement.
a minute, wait. I thought she only did that to me.
I told her, I said, we don't need them. Robert Egger said we don't need them. She said, Robert Egger doesn't live here. I need them. So we
Okay.
have them.
Well, especially because we didn't officially
We can-
open the, close the meeting.
So I opened the meeting. I did open the meeting
Okay.
and then I turned the meeting over to,
Okay.
we conducted no business. We gave a
Yeah.
presentation and that's what the meetings indicate. And then by the consensus of the board, we closed the meeting and turned over to the select.
Do you think I should write them more as notes than minutes? Because it wasn't, there were no official motion to adjourn or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
okay,
we adjourned by consensus. Like our portion of the meeting adjourned by consensus and the
Right.
consensus was us getting up out of the chairs and moving, stepping.
Other than staying on Katie's good side, I wouldn't worry
These
too
minutes-
much about the
these-
format.
Okay,
But Robert Edgar, a couple of years ago, looked into this because he was writing on everything everybody said.
right.
And he didn't want to write down everything everybody said. And so he went to the Secretary of State to find out
Yeah.
if these minutes were required. And he laid it in the lap of the select board and I told Audrey DeSeparo that I wasn't doing minutes. And then last year she did minutes that we could use. And this year she refused to do minutes we could use.
All right.
And
That's
some
weird because she
protest.
told me she was gonna do the minutes and then.
She did the minutes. She left all of ours blank. Nothing. She gave us nothing. So that's quiet quitting. She quiet quit this job that wasn't hers. And so then and that Katie got in touch with me on the 23rd or whatever. So there's no minutes for me to post. I'll need some minutes. And so I put up some minutes because mine was on plane.
All right.
So I have on this, the February 7th minutes, which were our regular meeting that we talked about. The February 8th minutes was an emergency meeting that we happened not long after that. February 8th was the building meeting.
Yeah.
February 9th was the emergency meeting, which was Zoom only.
Yeah.
February 21st was an informational meeting where no business was conducted. March 6th was an informational meeting where no business was conducted. We can approve all of those with one motion if I had that motion.
You had a change you wanted to add, right?
I had one small correction in the February 7th minutes, which I sent to Molly. And it was just a few words. She has it.
Yes.
So with that correction, I would entertain a motion to approve those 5 sets of minutes.
So moved.
Got it. Okay. We'll need a second to move on.
Second,
Thank you.
we're on a roll.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're still legal, so. All right, that's all the minutes that we have. Next, we have the superintendent report, under administrative reports. And it looks like we got some friendly news.
Yeah, so Vermont school facility analysis, they've already been here. I don't see that. That'll be in the fall, will be a report. The Renew American Schools grant, the decision on the concept letter that I submitted was labeled discouraged, which means we don't think it's going to get approved. You could still go through the onerous process of filling out a full application, but I'm not going to take the time to do it at this point.
Yeah.
So but they are divvying out this money in $80 million blocks. And so there will be another window for FY24 sometime after July 1st. And I'll take a look at it again then. I got some feedback from the review team that it was really confusing. I'm not making excuses for myself, but it was really confusing. There was a piece of it that I could have done a better job on it, and I can do that better next time. It's mostly already written, and I just need to add some more things into it. They said that they had over 1,000 applications, and the total amount of money requested in those 1,000 concept letters was 70 times what they had available to 70. So whatever 70 times 80 million is,
560.
560, thank you, $560 million when they had 80 million to dole out. So a little bit of competition, and
Yeah.
As far as I know, nobody in the state of Vermont who participated got past the concept stage. But so it's unfortunate, but one of the things that was included for Danville School was a request for money to replace the rest of the fluorescent lighting in the building, and I'm already on it with efficiency Vermont. So
Well, that's going to be illegal soon enough, so they're going to have to.
you won't be able to, after February of next year, you will not be able to buy fluorescent bulbs in Vermont. I've already talked to Sean. It's like, look, if we can't get this done, you're going to go out and buy supply of fluorescent bulbs, until we can get it done. I think he knows that already, for sure. And then the PCB testing, they were in over vacation to do the source testing here. Their track record, they say 4 weeks for results. It's been 6 to 8 before we'll find out what they flag as sources of the PCB that they found in that equipment room. It's a big area. A little bit on the stage area in the auditorium. None of the levels there were above the school action level, but not the immediate action level. We closed the auditorium for pre-K students for a few days, maybe a couple of weeks. But we repositioned some of those big HEPA filters into around the stage, and those HEPA filters that the state gave us last year for COVID also has the ability to filter airborne PCBs. So we are using the auditorium space again. We'll find out what they say. What they say are the sources. I went to the legislature last Tuesday, and testified to House Education on the PCB remediation plan, because the recommendation from DEC and the agency to the legislature was take your $32 million as a fixed fund and divvy it up on an 80-20 cost share basis. And I was like very adamant with them that that's not fair to the school districts to have to absorb 20% of what is at this point an unknown cost. It looks like there's going to be a battle, or is a battle brewing between the House and the Senate on this, because the House wants to suspend the PCB testing where it hasn't already occurred, but specifically make sure that the districts that have gone through the testing so far and do have to do remediation are reimbursed at 100%. So, but the Senate doesn't want to suspend the testing. So there'll be some feathers flying in the General Assembly around it. So that'll be fun to watch. But my big message is you can't make us absorb that 20%, and they heard that. So I'm cautiously optimistic. One other thing that's cropped up, because there's never too much environmental testing to be done. So now we have to test all of our school buildings for the presence of radon gas. That I just found out about this a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. It has to be done by, you can't go around, you can go out and buy $10 radon test kits. You can't use It has to be done by a certified radon tester. So, and there's like 3 of them in the state of Vermont. So we send Sean to school to get certified to be a radon tester and remediator. We'll pay to get him trained, and then he'll take that on for all the students. So
That's a good idea.
that's started, yeah. I gotta give Sean credit. He jumped on and said, why don't I get certified? He's already our certified asbestos, whatever the title is for that, and does that for all the schools, so. Yeah. I checked with health department and said, hey, that's a great idea, go ahead. So, it's gonna cost us a few $100s for you to get trained, but it will cost us collectively a few $1,000 to hire somebody to do. So it's money. I think that's all that I want to talk about right now. Unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions for the superintendent? Wow, we had a principal's report that came in.
Yeah, we
Everybody
did.
get a chance to read it?
Mhm.
All right, any questions about the principal's report? The principals obviously both at the game. Which is great.
What time is the game? 6?
6:30.
6:30.
Ooh. It's just getting ready to tip off.
Okay, so student services report came in. Were there any questions about the student services report? It is almost on the last page of the packet if you didn't get a chance to look at it. The very top line, therapeutic placements seem to be harder and harder to find for our students, so the most significant emotional and behavioral challenges.
That's universal.
Not surprising, but not great, That's gonna be an ongoing challenge for us probably for years to come. Okay, no questions. Moving on, student rep, again, that came late, so we'll talk about that. You guys can read it when we're done here, and we will have received it. And then we'll move on. Go on to board business. The first thing we have on board business, this came to the CCSU board. This is a Monsanto PCB lawsuit. We were just talking about PCBs. I can turn it over to Mark. We at the CCSU level, we met in February and we talked to our lawyer, Rachel Lynn, and he was putting together a contingency lawsuit, starting with Burlington, about PCBs against Monsanto. He's going to talk to us about it. I'll turn it over to Mark for a second.
Okay, yeah, actually, not a slight correction. Burlington's not involved.
They're
They've got
involved
their-
now?
No, they've
They're
got their own lawsuit going, and his firm's not involved. What he's doing is he's arranged with a couple of national law firms that do these kinds of chemical company lawsuits. They're not calling it a class action lawsuit. They're just looking to collect appellants who are potentially harmed by the presence of PCBs in the school. So he's expecting to have maybe 30 districts in the state of Vermont involved in this. This is one of those deals where there's no cost to us other than potentially some time to provide documentation and discovery, but there's no upfront financial investment. We're not going to pay for any legal services. The firms that are actually leading the lawsuit will sue Monsanto if there is a recovery. They keep a share of it and then they distribute it amongst the appellants. If they don't win the case, then they don't get any money and we don't get any bills. So it's kind of a no risk proposition. And the question for the board is whether or not Danville wants to sign on as an appellant to this case.
I have a question here from Dave Toll, who's still sitting with us. Why not class action?
You know what, Dave, I think that's a technical question, because I said the same thing when I was talking to Pietro. So you're talking about class action suit, and he said, no, it's not, because I think it's because there'll be specific named appellants, and it won't be in a class action lawsuit. It's normally worded something like anybody who might ever have been harmed in the state of Vermont by PCBs, and that's not what they're doing. They're making it specific to certain clients, and I think that's what the distinction is.
And the awards wouldn't be the same because the presence of the chemicals in the various schools would vary, and so
It could vary, the way the money's divvied up, the intention or the concern that's driving this is that the pool of money the state has set aside to do PCB remediation, nobody thinks that's going to be adequate. And neither does anybody think that the state's ready to pony up additional money. So, any recovery, which would be several years down the road, probably would help to offset any costs that we're experiencing.
I think the part I didn't know was that Monsanto invented PCBs. That's a chemical they made. I didn't know that.
And they were the only company that manufactured. It's a single manufacturer They're also a big, I mean, it's a big task to take this on, but because it's no risk to the district, I mean, I recommended to the CCSU board that they sign on, and then the decision was it should be left to the individual districts with a recommendation from the CCSU board that you consider it. Similar to what we do with policies, when they recommend policies for approval by the district, it's the same basic idea.
There were some, there were some schools in the district, in the CCSD district that had no PCBs.
Right.
There was one, so it became district business at that point, more than it became supervisory union business. So the recommendation came down from the SU board to consider this, and now I wonder would we like to consider joining this lawsuit, a contingency lawsuit against Monsanto, with the complainant being Danville.
Yeah, it's, why not? It seems,
Like
be a documentary at some point, probably. It's true.
Could be your 60 minutes moment, right?
This is where we keep our tuna fish and our PCBs.
Yep.
Canned tuna and PCB. So I entertain a motion to do so and put it back on the superintendent's desk.
I'll move to go forward with the contingency lawsuit for
Monsanto. I thought they were foods, but they're not. They're foods and chemicals.
Well, they're probably.
Probably there's PCBs in the. Okay, so I have a motion to move forward.
I will second.
I got a second on the motion to move forward with the lawsuit with Danville as the complainant and Monsanto being sued by us to go to PH Lynn through the superintendent. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
One more Dave, who's out there. Okay. All right, so that's that. Moving on to the moderator expense for the Danville Building Committee. We're spinning in circles, the Danville Building Committee. We have been.
Really?
We have been, it's impossible to find footing, it's impossible to move forward. We knew it, we've been doing it. It had been suggested that we get somebody else to moderate. And we were looking for a professional moderator. Rob Balabay recommended someone who's got some experience doing this. I met with her, Rob, Katie White, and I met with her as a contingent from the building committee. And her name is Beth Cannell. She's done some specific work like this. She's worked with, she said she's worked with the St. J Academy on a building project. She's worked with the Fairbanks Museum on a building project. She's worked with the Danville Energy Committee. She's full of energy. She's full of positivity. She came prepared to the meeting.
She demands,
What's that?
right? She demands snacks.
So she specifically demanded that this was a 2-hour session that she would go over. She may need 3, she may need 6. She doesn't know until she gets there. She wants for there to be a break. She wants for there to be snacks, and she wants for those snacks not to have sugar. And that all seemed
What? No chocolate chip cookies?
no cookies, right? This is and so she said she doesn't like sugar in her meetings. And so I said, okay.
Well, you know what? That's a real thing, because I used to do, in another life, I was a facilitator. and it's- Worst thing you could do is give people chocolate chip cookies, because half an hour later, they're gone.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so everything she said seemed reasonable, and she seemed interested in taking on the task, and we have no other plan.
Yeah.
And so, and this was the will of the group at the last meeting as well. They all agreed that this was a good idea. So she's going to charge for the prep and for the 2 hours. She says she's going to, there'll be several hours of prep and she'll come prepared. She's going to charge $300 per session. And like I say, it may be 3, it may be 6, it may be 2. And she may start spinning in circles with us. I really don't know. But
So you're looking at potentially a couple $1,000.
I'm probably looking at a not to exceed 1,800 or a not to exceed 6 sessions. And I'd like that to come, if we can, out of the capital reserve. Where we have $28,000. I talked to the principals about trying to find it in the budget, and they said it seems cleaner if it comes out of one of the capital reserves, since it's.
I would agree.
And
It's a good use of that fund.
And so I would entertain a motion to, for the school district to allow Beth Cannell to be paid for these sessions at $300 per session. And for there to be as many as 6 sessions, and for the total bill not to exceed $1,800 out of the capital reserve fund.
So moved.
Second.
There you go.
Because I
moved.
know Mom
Motion and a
checking it second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Dave Toll says he's gonna drink a soda pop out of a coffee cup. And can't tell me that. Now I know, now I'm complicit in your Coca-Cola drink.
Now we all are.
Yeah.
I'm
Now
done.
we're all
It's
in
in the
trouble.
minutes. put
We
that
can't
in
do
there.
it at the building advisory meeting, all right?
All right. And so that's that one. And there's one more thing here on our agenda, and it's meeting expectations. And this came up at the last meeting, and this had come up at the beginning of the year, and this has come up many times throughout the thing. And this is about late reports. And so we had some reports that come in, and it's not just about late reports, it's about how many times we get an updated packet. And that is Katie being efficient and Katie haranguing people to get documents so that she can finish her work on this. And so the first thing that Katie needed and needs is a hard date to stop being allowed to send the updated packet to the board. And so what I talked with her, and then I think I gave you guys an email, is that the packet that Katie is due to send us the packet for a Tuesday regular meeting on the prior Friday at noon.
Yeah.
And so that's when I want the packet to go out.
Perfect.
And so
That
the
makes
prior Friday at noon, everything that she has goes out in the packet, and the packet can say in it, I am missing the following items. And then those items will be considered late. And there's no penalty for them being late, although we'd like them to not be late.
Mhm.
And then when they are late, they then get sent not to Katie, but to me. And they said, this is late. And it can be copied to Katie, but you send it to me, and then from me, you like, this one is late, but you don't get the whole packet again, because what happens is the packet
Right.
gets clogged and you get 4 different versions of it.
Mhm.
And if you go to open the first one, whatever gets added in there isn't necessarily in there because it's in the 3rd version, and then you don't see it, and you walk in and you haven't seen the superintendent's report. And so a lot of times I've walked into these meetings thinking that I'm fully prepared, and I didn't get the superintendent's report because that's never in the packet, and I say it's not
Yeah,
in the
because
packet.
sometimes
And
I'm
Mark
late.
said, Mark says, I had it last week because I'm also being hounded by Katie to get my work in. And so I talked to her about it, and she's looking for all this stuff all the time. It doesn't always come. People are busy.
Mhm.
And there's no doubt people are busy. And like I said, there's no penalty on this, but that's the due date for the packet. So you should expect a packet if you don't agree to this. We'll expect a packet Friday at noon before a Tuesday meeting. That gives you the weekend and a Monday, because everybody's got work and things to do. That gives you time to look at the packet. When things are late, expect them marked as such. This is late, this is built in this blank for the meeting, and it won't come again with the packet. Does that make reasonable sense to everybody?
And you'll forward it, whatever comes in, you'll forward out to everybody.
And I'll try to train Katie not to also forward that, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stop her.
And it won't be read aloud at the meeting. even if it's
This
late.
is the second part of this is
Mhm.
receiving oral reports that are late that are then read to us.
Yeah, that's,
It happens, and it happens.
It's not efficient.
So I think on that one, with the exception of the kids.
Yeah.
With the exception of the kids, if the kids have a report that hasn't come in and they need a couple of minutes to gather themselves and talk so that we can open a dialogue with our student reps, I think they can probably read it. But having the principal read us something that was all written down, when our job is just to receive it, and we can read it after if we need to. We can have received it at this point, even if it's late, and we can go over it after and forward our questions on. It's
Yeah.
good. So that's a second meeting expectation here that comes out of this, and the title is meeting expectations. So oral reports, no reading of late reports allowed. Reports are late afternoon on Friday, and there's a different method to get them in. And this is just more to value everybody's time.
Yeah.
Can we all agree to that?
Mhm.
All right, and I'll talk to Katie and we'll see how this goes. And then if this doesn't come up, then at our meeting retreat, we can talk about our goals. Just we'll start getting them on Thursdays, the Thursday prior. But this puts us the Friday prior to the first Tuesday of the month will be last month every time. And so I don't know when you do your report, but
yeah, it depends on how the calendar falls and whether Katie's reminded me.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I mean, and I'm as bad about this sometimes. Other people, but
people are busy. And I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I talk to you 4 or 5 times in a day about something else, and
Mhm.
it's not writing things down.
Right.
I think we all understand that, but at the same time,
Right.
receiving
No,
an
but
oral
it's-
report
yeah.
is not efficient. Agree?
Great, great.
Okay.
I mean, I have a separate, just quickly, I mean, I have a separate, when I write a board report, say on the 27th of the month for the following month,
Mhm.
by the time I get to Cabot, it's old news.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't know where this expectation of writing a report for the month came from, except from tradition.
So, to my reckoning, school boards exist to receive reports.
Okay,
That's one of the main functions of this. You have to give a report to somebody. We exist to receive that report so that there's a record of somebody having
Oh,
received that report.
I get that. I'm just saying that, you know, the timeliness of the information is, and some of the things don't apply anymore by the time I get to the end of the.
Right.
He would like to write weekly reports.
No, I don't think that's what I said. No, I'm sorry if you heard that, Jim, because I wasn't one.
So if, just on that note, if there were weekly reports, if every Monday morning, every Friday afternoon, dump it all down, and then there it is. It would be the same. We did this with Dave last year. Dave was writing out weekly things to the community that were coming in, and then he was stressing about whether or not what was going to go in his report. And we're like, you already wrote down 15 things that we saw. Your report is already there. We have already seen these. We can accept them as reports.
And they're
So-
a public record, which is helpful too, because then someone can look at the minutes and they're in there and they can
Yeah,
take a look.
But I mean, if something's written down and something is noteworthy, then what you can just say on our particular minutes page for Danville, there is a specific section of our columns called meeting documents or called administrative reports, so that there's a place to put administrative reports where Katie has them. So if you have something you say this is an administrative report for the next month or for this month, it can just be added there. But I mean, it's a lot about not somebody struggling to tell us some stuff that's already been written down that we already know.
I mean, and the reality is if it was something super pressing, you would communicate it to us in a different way. And that's the thing about.
well, yeah, I mean,
report, too, is it's
I've
like-
mentioned a couple things tonight that were not in my written report,
Right,
because when I wrote it, I hadn't been in the legislature yet.
Now,
Right.
Dave says something I'm not sure I agree with. He says with open meeting laws, these reports should be available to the public before the meeting. And I don't think that's
No,
true.
I don't.
That is
agree
not
with
true. With open meeting laws, these reports are meant to be received at this meeting. That is our business. We're
right.
here to receive those
Right.
reports.
And anything.
Any actionable items have to be presented to the community before.
Right.
So if we're going to take action on something or spend money or make a change to a policy or something like that, that has to be out 10 days before. But the reports themselves, which is what has happened, don't have to be out before the meeting. That's the whole reason that we're here.
Right, and I've had this argument with the town rep in the past, because they'll know that something's going on, and you know, like a couple times this season, they asked me for, you know, a look ahead at the budget. And you guys don't get to see things before the board does. I'm sorry, they're available after the board meeting.
Right. In that case, the proposed budget to bring to the board is not a public document until the board sees it.
Right.
Right.
At this meeting. And the report of an administrator is not a public document until the board receives it.
Right.
But a
'Cause there's-
proposed
I have a lot
change
of
to the
things on
agenda by
my
the
computer that I have
Yeah.
not sent to anybody, and it's nobody's business, because they're not public records until I share
until it becomes the business of one of the school boards.
them. I got a folder that says secrets, don't tell me. No, but I mean, I have things, I have work product. I have work product and, you know, different things in the process for different boards at different times. Until they get to see it, it's somebody's business. It really isn't. It's not public business. Because I reserve the right to change it right up until the time I present it to you. Or until the Thursday before the Friday before the meeting.
Right before the meeting.
Yeah,
And so just so that's the expectation. Friday before the meeting is when the reports is when the packet is due to us. And this takes the pressure off Katie to be chasing people on Tuesdays for late work. And it moves it over to the person to submit the late work to me.
Right.
So that it comes in advance. And if we don't get to it, we'll read it after. We
Right.
can receive it on the meeting day and receive it after, because we all know that these emails don't stop coming because of meetings. The next day, you're gonna get 4 more emails. Agree?
I like
Cool.
this. I like the structure.
Hopefully it's cleaner. We'll see how it goes. And it's just, again, it's ongoing.
I'm gonna try to adopt it. For the 5 boards.
Because when I sat with her to talk about this, she's being driven nuts. She's got a lot of ways to go, and she's chasing people. And so she started copying me on how she's chasing people. And it's tough.
Yeah.
But I believe. Okay, so I'm gonna move on from that one. That's where we are with that. Next, I've got public input. There does not appear to be any public here. I'll move on from that. There's not future agenda items on this one, and there's not next meeting date. Our next meeting date is our regular scheduled meeting date, which we already know. Our
Is there
next,
a committee meeting in between there?
25.
so we have a moderated committee meeting on the 22nd. And then we have also, our next scheduled meeting will be the first Tuesday of next month, which I don't know the date of.
We're missing an agenda item here for the future meetings, right?
Done on this agenda.
It's on this agenda, so we're not really talking about it.
All right,
None of this has been talked
Alright.
about.
April 4th.
April 4th. So I will send, for future meeting planning, I will send you an email. And then with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
There's a second motion from Melissa, a second from Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Meeting adjourned, 6:45.
Record.